Some fairy tales don't end with a royal wedding. Sometimes, the real story only begins when the palace walls begin to shatter. Prepare yourselves, because this is definitely not your typical regal romance. We are dropping straight into the middle of the most suffocating, jaw-dropping courtroom drama imaginable. The entire nobility is gathered, the murmurs are frantic, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. There stands our gorgeous Empress, looking absolutely breathtaking and dignified in a striking red gown, while the Emperor stands nearby with his new, delicate-looking lover. The High Priest asks the ultimate question: does she accept this divorce without objection? And the way she just calmly, coldly states that she accepts it. Absolute queen behavior. The Emperor actually has the nerve to let out a sigh of relief, and his mistress is already smirking like she won the prize. But hold on, because our Empress is playing 4D chess. Before anyone can even breathe, she drops the ultimate bombshell. She is requesting permission to remarry right then and there. The sudden look of pure, unadulterated shock on the Emperor's face is deeply satisfying. He completely loses his mind, demanding to know who she could possibly be marrying. And right on cue, the doors swing open. In steps this incredibly handsome, confident blonde man with a breathtaking smirk, casually asking if it's his turn to come up. She looks right at her soon-to-be ex-husband and declares that this is the man she's marrying. Iconic. But okay, how on earth did we even get to this point? To understand the drama, we have to rewind to a few months earlier. Our Empress is just trying to have a peaceful day when her ladies-in-waiting burst in, absolutely furious and bursting with scandalous gossip. Apparently, the Emperor went hunting and came back with a mysterious, filthy woman who looked like a runaway slave. And the absolute audacity of this man. He actually ordered the Empress's personal ladies to bathe her. The servants are totally offended, but they warn our queen that beneath the dirt, this new woman is devastatingly pretty, and the Emperor is already completely infatuated with her, doting on her and worrying over her health. The ladies-in-waiting are instantly on high alert, sensing danger, but our precious Empress remains calm, trying to convince herself that her husband is simply acting out of pure pity. Oh, sweet girl, if only she knew. Okay, the sheer nerve of this girl is actually sending me into orbit. So there they are in the garden, and instead of showing a shred of royal protocol, this woman just casually smiles like they're old friends. Navier, being the absolute epitome of class, literally doesn't say a single word. She just turns on her heel to walk away because, honestly, why should she waste her breath? But then, oh my God, the girl actually reaches out and grabs Navier's stunning red gown to stop her, ripping the fabric. I gasped out loud. Laura instantly snaps, yelling at her for being so unbelievably rude. The girl immediately turns on the waterworks, stammering that she's sorry, but she just didn't know how to address the Empress properly. Laura tries to school her, telling her to mind her manners because she is speaking to the literal Empress of the Eastern Kingdom. But then this girl drops a line that makes my blood boil. She's like, "Oh, I know she's the Empress. My name is Rashta." As if her name is supposed to mean something to the crown. She literally beams, saying how glad she is to run into Navier because she was wondering when she'd get to meet her. The absolute delusion. Navier is just standing there thinking, wait, is she seriously expecting me to call her by her name? Keeping her composure like a true professional, Navier just coldly says, "Just call me your Majesty." That should suffice, and turns to leave again. But wait, it gets so much worse. Rashta falls to the ground crying, sobbing about how mean everyone is, and right on cue, like he was waiting in the bushes, Emperor Sovishu appears with his guards. He immediately demands to know who is being called filthy, and runs to scoop Rashta into his arms, comforting her right in front of his actual wife. The way he glares at Navier is actually heartbreaking, but our queen just stares back, completely unfazed, noting to herself that Rashta is definitely a lot more manipulative than the ladies-in-waiting realized. Navier signals her ladies to leave, completely ignoring the toxic display, but Sovishu actually has the audacity to bark. "Stop right there, Empress." He demands that Laura apologize to Rashta. Navier steps in, fiercely defending her lady, pointing out that Laura is a high-ranking noblewoman, but Sovishu points his finger and says Laura needs to apologize to Rashta, to him, and to the Empress. And the way Navier looks him dead in the eye and just says, "No." Absolute chills. Okay, the awkward tension is officially off the charts. We cut to our royal couple having dinner, which, by the way, they only do once a week. The atmosphere is dead silent until Navier decides to just cut through the polite nonsense. She calmly drops the bomb, asking him point-blank if it's true that he found a slave girl near the hunting grounds. You can literally hear the sharp clank of his silverware hitting the plate. Sovishu completely freezes, tries to act casual by taking a bite of his steak, and then has the audacity to snap back, asking who told her that. Navier is totally unfazed. She's like, "It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is whether it's true." And oh my God, his reaction. Instead of just giving a straight answer, he gets totally defensive, getting visibly irritated and telling her not to press him. He actually tries to guilt-trip her, saying they only see each other once a week, so they should talk about other things. The deflection is so real, it's painful. Naturally, Navier goes back to her chambers looking completely downcast. When she relays his excuse to her ladies, that the girl was just a commoner caught in a hunting trap, they are absolutely not buying it. One of her ladies, Laura, is completely fumes. She boldly points out that if it was just about treating injuries, why is he acting so suspiciously defensive and forbidding anyone from bringing it up again? She even drops the ultimate truth bomb, saying these are the exact same irritated signs her own father showed when he first started having an affair. The sheer panic and rage in the room is unmatched. After sending the furious Laura out to calm down, Navier is left alone with her older lady-in-waiting, Eliza, and finally lets her guard down. She admits she feels this strange, hollow emptiness inside. They've been engaged since childhood and married for political stability, never sharing a passionate, head-over-heels love story, but this still cuts deep. Later that night, Navier goes for a walk to clear her mind, only to overhear the palace staff whispering about how peculiar it is that the stoic emperor is acting like this. She tries to ignore the gossip, turning a corner into the gardens when suddenly she spots her. The mysterious woman is right there, looking completely ethereal in a white gown. Their eyes lock, and the girl actually has the nerve to smile and casually call out, "Hello there." I am screaming. The drama is officially heating up. The absolute disrespect coming from the throne room right now is making my jaw hit the floor. Sovishu actually looks Navier's lady-in-waiting, Laura, dead in the eye and commands his guards to lock her up for 3 entire days. Laura flinches in pure terror, and Navier steps in instantly, completely appalled, telling him he is going way too far. But Sovishu just glares back like a total villain, claiming Laura deserves it because she dared to call an injured woman filthy. To save her mistress from further trouble, Laura bravely cuts in, trembling, and says she will accept the punishment. The sheer satisfaction on Sovishu's face as he dismisses her and pats Rashta's head is enough to make anyone seethe. Later on, Navier is summoned to the emperor's private quarters. She walks in with pure regal elegance, asking why he called for her. Sovishu doesn't even look up at first, casually sipping his drink, before launching into a lecture about how she needs to start taking care of Rashta instead of sending her away. Can you believe the audacity? Navier firmly tells him that Laura's actions weren't out of line and that punishing her further is completely wrong, especially since she already took her punishment. But Sovishu just grits his teeth and snaps, asking why she can't just obediently follow his orders for once. Navier keeps her composure perfectly, explaining that an empress is a co-ruler, not a servant who bends to the emperor's whim. And then, oh my God, he actually says it. He turns around and barks that it's because she acts like this that she can't even compare. Navier clenches her fists, her heart breaking a little as she asks, compare to whom? But instead of dealing with his toxic behavior, she just coldly tells him she's tired and bids him good night. Meanwhile, Rashta is back in her room playing the ultimate sweet, innocent angel. When Sovishu walks in, she's clumsily trying to act like a maid, claiming she wants to help out around the palace. Sovishu is completely charmed, telling her to sit down and eat pumpkin pie with him instead. As they eat, he starts comparing Rashta to Navier, noting how Rashta gets ecstatic over tiny things like pie, whereas Navier never shows that kind of happiness no matter how many priceless jewels he gives her. Rashta subtly fans the flames, acting meek, and suggesting that because the Empress lived a life of luxury, she probably takes everything for granted. The manipulation is so quiet, but so deadly. So Vishu just caresses her hair, completely under her spell, calling her his clever little prey. Then, Rashta brings up the ultimate topic, making her his official concubine. She notes that the Empress still doesn't know about it, but Sovishu just smirks, telling her not to rush and that he has it all beautifully planned out. I am throwing hands. Our queen deserves so much better. The audacity of this girl is reaching astronomical levels, and I am officially losing my mind. We pick up right where we left off, and Rashta has the absolute nerve to approach Navier, batting her teary eyes, asking if the Empress hates her because they are not sisters. Navier stands there, her face a mask of cold perfection, and reminds her that they were never sisters to begin with. But Rashta, completely missing the concept of boundaries, looks shocked and whines, "But you and I share the same husband." I felt my soul leave my body. The sheer disrespect of saying that straight to the Empress's face. Navier's eyes flash with a dangerous glare, and with an icy calm that gives me literal chills, she simply commands, "Get out." Cut to Rashta running back to her quarters, absolutely sobbing her eyes out to her new staff, crying that the Empress hates her just because she was told they aren't sisters. Of course, the palace rumors spark up instantly, with the servants whispering about the obvious tension. When a noble comes to visit Rashta and gently tries to explain that the positions of an empress and a mistress inherently oppose each other, Rashta completely plays dumb. She genuinely acts confused, repeating that they just share a husband, and even proudly admits she said that exact line directly to Navier. The noble literally facepalms, thinking, oh God, why? Honestly, same. Thankfully, our queen gets a much-needed break from the toxic palace drama. While taking a walk outside, she notices large, beautiful feathers drifting through the air, and suddenly, a magnificent, giant bird flaps its wings and lands right beside her. It is absolutely huge and gorgeous. Navier gently pets the sweet creature, and her ladies-in-waiting completely melt, squealing about how adorable it is. Navier notices a small, rolled-up note attached to its leg. She opens it to find a message from a foreign guest visiting for the upcoming New Year's celebration, admitting they wrote the letter after having a few too many drinks. It is so chaotic, but incredibly charming. Her ladies instantly urge her to write a reply, and Navier can't help but smile, finding the whole thing deeply endearing. She grabs a pen, scratches out a sweet little response explaining that the bird flew to her, and attaches it back to the bird's leg. The bird even nuzzles her hand before taking off into the sky, and Navier watches it fly away, softly wishing for it not to get lost. But hold on, because the final scene just completely raised my heart rate. We follow the bird as it flies across the kingdom, soaring over the palace walls, until it finally lands on the arm of, oh my God, that incredibly handsome blonde man from the premier's flash forward. He takes the note, reads Navier's reply, and sports the most breathtaking, swoon-worthy smirk. He looks up at the sky, and softly murmurs that he guesses he'll have to be smarter than his own master if he wants to see his queen again. I am screaming. The chemistry is already off the charts, and they haven't even met in person yet. Who do you think this gorgeous blonde foreigner is? And how fast do we think he's going to steal our queen away from her toxic husband? The sweet relief of a harmless distraction never lasts long in this palace, does it? Navier is back indoors with her ladies-in-waiting, and they are all eagerly chattering about that magnificent bird, wondering who it could possibly belong to and hoping it brings back another reply. But reality comes knocking immediately. Since Sovishu is putting intense pressure on the palace to find ladies-in-waiting for his precious new mistress, Navier takes it upon herself to host a tea party with high-ranking noblewomen. She looks absolutely breathtaking, but the topic she has to introduce is incredibly awkward. She directly asks the room if anyone is willing to step up and serve the emperor's new concubine. The entire room goes dead silent. You can literally feel the tension as the noblewomen sip their tea uncomfortably. Finally, one brave lady speaks up and voices what everyone is already whispering behind closed doors. The rumors are everywhere that Lady Rashta is actually a runaway slave. High society nobles possess a massive sense of pride, and they flat-out refuse to degrade themselves by serving someone of that background. They declare that if they agreed to be her ladies-in-waiting, they wouldn't even be able to show their faces in public anymore. The tea party ends in a total standoff, leaving Navier completely exhausted as she flops onto her bed. Thankfully, a sudden tap at the window changes everything. The giant bird is actually back, perching right on the window frame. Navier instantly rises, her face lighting up with genuine joy. The bird brought another letter, and this time the mysterious foreigner writes that now that they are sober, they think they are much smarter than the bird. It's so playful. Navier giggles and quickly scribbles back a reply, teasingly asking if they are still a little bit drunk and asking for the bird's name. Her ladies are just so happy to see their queen finally having fun as she sends the bird flying back out into the sky. But of course, right on cue, a knock at the door ruins the mood. Sovishu struts into her chambers, and Navier can barely hide her irritation, noting that he's been visiting entirely too often lately. He doesn't waste a second before coldly asking how the search for Rashta's staff is going. Navier calmly explains the truth. She asked every single lady in the capital, but absolutely no one volunteered for the position. Instead of accepting the reality that his mistress is a social outcast, Sovishu gets defensive. His eyes narrow coldly as he suggests there must be a specific reason they refused, before looking Navier dead in the eye and accusing her of spreading rumors in high society. Navier clenches her fists tightly against her dress, keeping her temper under wraps, and logically fires back that she couldn't possibly say anything when she knows absolutely nothing about his concubine. But Sovishu stands up, completely escalating the fight. He slams his hands down on her table with a loud bang, glaring at our queen, and demands to know point-blank if she is the one who started the rumor that Rashta is a runaway slave. The audacity of this man is truly boundless. Sovishu is officially a lost cause, and the way he is speaking to our queen is making me want to throw hands. He stands there slamming his hands down, aggressively accusing Navier of calling Rashta a runaway slave, but Navier looks right back at him with fire in her eyes. She makes it crystal clear. They are political partners, not lovers, so he needs to stop dragging her into his messy relationship drama. She turns her back on him, refusing to deal with his nonsense anymore, leaving him to bark that an empress shouldn't cry over something so trivial. The absolute emotional detachment from this man. To escape the toxic energy, Navier heads out to her beautiful secret garden to clear her head, letting out a heavy, exhausted sigh. But then, bless this sweet creature, our favorite giant bird suddenly flaps down right in front of her. Navier's entire mood instantly shifts, her face softening as she reaches out to comfort the bird. She completely pours her heart out to it, whispering that this is her absolute secret place where she can cry her eyes out when the palace gets too suffocating. She decides this amazing, comforting bird deserves a fittingly royal name, so she smiles and officially dubs him Queen. She gives Queen a big, warm hug, thanking him for completely lifting her spirits before he takes off back into the night sky. But oh my God, cut to where Queen actually flies back to. The bird returns to the Western Kingdom, and we find out that Queen's master is none other than Prince Heinley, the incredibly gorgeous blonde royal who is next in line for the Western throne. And get this, Heinley is currently lounging around completely shirtless, looking absolutely breathtaking while talking to his blue-feathered bird companion. When he reads Navier's note and discovers she named him Queen, he lets out a hilarious, charmed chuckle, wondering how she could possibly name a guy Queen. His advisor bursts in, completely exasperated because Heinley was supposed to be out scouting the palace properly instead of casually strolling around. But Heinley just gives this devilish smirk, telling his advisor to trust him. He is so deeply intrigued by our Empress already. Back at the palace, Navier is sitting outdoors trying to get some peace, but Rashta just has to come over and ruin it. Rashta sits right down on a chair, completely ignoring palace etiquette, and tries to play dumb, whining that she just wants to be closer to the Empress. Navier looks at her with total disgust, pointing out that Rashta is literally sitting on her personal handkerchief and demands that she leave. When Rashta keeps pushing her fake innocence, Navier completely shuts her down with an icy, savage reality check, telling Rashta that when the Emperor eventually takes his next concubine, she can go try to befriend her instead. The absolute mic drop. Rashta freezes in pure shock as Navier tells her that she is merely the concubine the Emperor will take after her, leaving Rashta completely stunned as Navier walks away. Of course, Rashta immediately runs straight to Sovishu to cry about it, and later that night, Sovishu storms into Navier's chambers like a complete madman. He slams the doors and demands to know why she is being so cold and hostile towards Rashta. Navier stands her ground perfectly, asking if he ever saw the previous emperor disrespect his empress like this over a mistress. But Sovishu is so blinded by his infatuation that he looks at Navier and says the most hurtful thing yet, calling her a completely cold-hearted person before slamming the door and leaving her visibly tottering in shock. The chapter ends on the most infuriating note possible. Rashta is back in her bed, literally pounding her fists with joy and giggling, because the servants are gossiping about how loudly the Emperor yelled at the Empress just for her. She is absolutely thrilled by the chaos she's causing, while our poor Queen is left alone in the dark, her heart heavy with the weight of her husband's betrayal. A late-night knock on the window brings back the only source of pure joy left in this palace. Navier opens the glass to let sweet Queen inside, discovering a hilarious new note from his mysterious master. The letter reads that, while he agrees to the name, Navier needs to remember that this bird is actually a male. Navier chuckles, holding the bird close, playfully asking him if he was offended that she didn't realize he was a boy. Her ladies-in-waiting just watch in adoration, noting that Queen acts so comfortably that anyone would think he owned the room. As the days blur together, the highly anticipated New Year's celebration finally approaches. Honestly, thank goodness, because it means Navier and Sovishu are so busy preparing that they don't even have to receive guests together or look each other in the eye. But there is one crucial international guest arriving who demands a formal royal welcome, Prince Heinley of the Western Kingdom. Rumors have been swirling about him everywhere, particularly regarding his behavior and his jaw-dropping good looks. The second his carriage arrives, Navier realizes the rumors did not exaggerate his appearance at all. He is absolutely ethereal, looking like a total Prince Charming with a presence so captivating that just standing silently in a corner could cause a social frenzy. He steps forward, reaches for Navier's hand, and smoothly greets her with, "It's a pleasure to meet you, my queen." "Wait, my queen." The literal boldness of his words makes Navier give him a sharp look, but she politely replies, wishing him a wonderful stay at the palace. Prince Heinley just gazes at her with total adoration, smoothly replying that he already loves it here. Later that night, the rain is pouring down outside when Queen suddenly taps on Navier's window again. Navier opens it up and immediately gets another note. The message reads, "I've arrived at the palace. Do you know who I am?" Navier lets out a small laugh and quickly writes back, teasing him by saying she doesn't have a clue. But looking at the soaked bird, she realizes his master sent him out in this terrible weather just to play games. She asks Queen if his master is completely heartless for making him fly through a storm just for a ridiculous bet. The poor bird instantly starts shaking and panicking, trying to defend his master, which is just too adorable. The letter she pulls from Queen goes on to outline the stakes of the master's game. "Shall we make a bet? The one who finds the other person first will be the winner." Navier reads it aloud, wondering what the prize could possibly be, which makes Queen perk up with intense, excited chirps, pointing frantically at the note. Navier decides it's way too dangerous for him to fly back in a downpour, so she gently tells him to just sleep in her room for the night until the rain stops. Queen freezes in absolute shock, looking completely flustered, but he behaves and tucks himself in. When Navier wakes up the next morning, she blinks and turns around, only to find the bed completely empty. Queen is already gone, having slipped out quietly into the early morning. Suddenly, a knock sounds at her door, and she discovers a final piece of rolled-up parchment left behind. She unrolls the final message answering her question about the bet's reward, and his master has written, "Queen is the prize." Navier is left standing in her chambers, staring at the letter with a completely flustered expression. His master actually left a hint, explicitly stating that he is a man, confirming all her suspicions. Before she can even process the implications, a knock sounds at the door, and her maid breaks the news that Prince Heinley is waiting right outside. Talk about perfect timing. Navier steps out to greet him, and the moment their eyes meet, he smoothly moves in, takes her hand, and holds it with a devastatingly handsome smile. He leans in close, casually asking if he is bothering her, calling her queen. Navier quickly pulls her hand back, keeping her composure, and points out that he isn't bothering her at all. She asks what brings him to her quarters, and Heinley, with a charming grin, requests a personal tour of the massive imperial palace because he's afraid he'll get lost. Navier initially offers to send a maid, but Heinley bows deeply, making it clear he wants her to guide him personally. The way he keeps boldly calling her queen makes her suspect he might actually be the bird's master, though his tone is a wild mix of sweet and haughty. Not wanting to create a diplomatic incident with the Western Kingdom, she agrees and asks him to follow her. As they stroll through the palace grounds, Heinley keeps the conversation flowing smoothly, asking if she has visited the Silver Gardens. But of course, the peaceful atmosphere is instantly ruined by a high-pitched, overly familiar voice. Rashta comes bouncing into view, gushing that she is out for a walk too, before dropping a massive, uninvited greeting. The second Rashta locks eyes with Heinley, she gasps out loud, completely starstruck, exclaiming that he looks exactly like a prince from a fairy tale. Heinley introduces himself with a polite bow, but Rashta just keeps squealing about how this is her very first time meeting a real prince. She eagerly asks if she can join them and show him around, but Heinley glances at her, completely unfazed, and smoothly declines, stating the Empress is already giving him a wonderful tour. When Rashta pushes further, suggesting the three of them go together, Heinley shuts her down completely, saying that 3 is simply too many. The absolute satisfaction of watching him brush her off is unmatched. He turns back to Navier and says, "Let's go, Queen," leaving a very rejected Rashta standing in the dust. Once they are out of earshot, Heinley pouts, putting on a hilarious act and asking Navier why she's being so cold to him. He even whines, asking if his face looks swollen or if he isn't handsome enough, despite dressing up extra stylishly today. Navier can barely handle the absurdity and lets out a genuine chuckle, telling him he looks perfectly fine. The conversation turns more serious as they walk. Heinley reveals his true thoughts about the Eastern Emperor, calling him a deeply strange man for turning away from a perfect queen. He firmly grips her hand, admitting he would much rather attend the upcoming New Year's party as the queen's personal guest instead of the emperor's. Navier reminds him that the official invitations have already been sent out, but Heinley playfully suggests just scratching out the emperor's name and replacing it with hers. Later that evening, after the tour concludes, Navier receives another secret visit from the real queen. She reads a playful note asking if she is still looking for him, and she attaches her reply, writing that she is looking for his master diligently and hopes to meet him at the party. She notices the bird turning around shyly when she mentions he's a male, and she laughs, patting his head before sending him off to deliver the message safely. But as the first day of the grand New Year's party arrives, a heavy rule looms over the palace. The emperor must enter the venue side by side with the empress. The chapter closes on a tense note, with the entire palace staff whispering in absolute shock as the guest list leaks, leaving everyone asking how a mere concubine could possibly be permitted to attend the prestigious New Year's party.